Good morning, everybody, and welcome to week 12. This week, we are working on essay number 3, which is your final essay for this semester. The topic for essay number 3 is about democracy. While that's happening, I am busy grading essay number 2. My goal is to have that returned to you by early next week, so that way you'll have time to revise that essay before the end of the semester. So as far as essay number 2 goes, as I read through that and give feedback on essay 2, you might notice that you see my comments in Google Doc, but just wait before you do anything, because you won't be able to see anything in Canvas until I release it all. And that, again, that will be probably early next week. So just hang tight, take this week and really start to dig into essay number 3 content about democracy. And then I'll have essay number 2 back to you, like I said, hopefully by early next week. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this week is providing for you. So this week really does establish the pattern that we're going to follow through the rest of the week, or the rest of the semester, excuse me. You'll have a discussion board at the beginning of the week about the readings. You get to choose which reading or readings you want to talk about. That's due in the early part of the week. The essay progress at the end of the week, you need to kind of touch base about where you're at with the essay. I did not include that discussion board last week because it was too early in the unit, but now you'll have an essay progress post due every week, where it's basically an opportunity for you just to kind of talk about where you're at with the essay, what questions you have, your approaches. What tends to happen is later, once we get closer to the draft, then students will start kind of talking with each other and kind of helping each other out on these discussion boards. So you'll have an opportunity to do that. The peer replies are not required. It's an option, but they tend to kind of happen on this particular discussion board. Of course, you have a writing territory due at the end of the week, but really that's all you're working on is reading and kind of starting to think about how you want to craft essay number 3. So we're going to move into that also by talking about it. So essay number 3, the topic is about democracy. And I want to kind of walk you through what this essay is asking you to consider. And that might be easier by talking about what I don't want, right? Essay number 3 is about democracy, but it is not necessarily meant to be an essay where you focus on one political party over another. This is not about pro-Biden, anti-Biden, pro-Trump, anti-Trump. This is not meant to be a referendum on any one party. The bigger question is kind of looking at where we are right now in our democracy, right? The election of 2020 brought more voters to the polls than ever before, and yet as a country, we remain seriously divided. And so for you, as a person coming up into this kind of divided stance that we see each other as a country, what does that mean for you? What do you think that means for your willingness to maybe participate in democracy, to vote? There are a lot of different ways that you can approach this essay. You are basically asserting an opinion, though. You're taking a stance, and then your goal is to support it. And each week I'm giving you between 5 and 8 different resources for you to read and consider and to possibly use in your essay. So if you're looking for an outright prompt, there isn't necessarily one for this essay. There's an idea, and that idea comes from this quote from John Lewis, right? Democracy, it is not a state, it is an act, and each generation must do its part to help build what we call the beloved community, a nation and world society at peace with itself. So he really is kind of forming the foundation of our thinking about democracy. And your task is to write an essay in which you grapple with that concept. What does it mean? What are its possibilities, right? What does it mean when we're divided as a country? How do we work towards bridging the gaps? Do we need to bridge the gaps? Can we exist with the gaps? Is that how we're supposed to exist? What do you think about all of that? I would encourage you, if you are just totally drawing a blank with this essay, try to meet with me this week. Let's talk about it, right? It's week 12. This essay is due in just a few weeks, and that's only because we only have 5 weeks left, right? Week 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. May 20th is the last day of class. Now that might seem like it's a long way off. It's just a little over a month, and this essay is due the week before then, because otherwise there's no way that I can get it graded in time. So meet with me frequently, often. Come to open hours if you don't want to have a conference. But definitely come and talk with me about it. So as I mentioned, this is a thesis-driven essay. It is not a traditional argument. So like essay 2. So you do not need to have a specific type of claim. You do not need a counter-argument or a rebuttal unless you want to include one. That's optional. You do need to have, of course, body paragraphs that present your evidence and your analysis. You do need to have at least 3 credible sources, and 2 of those have to come from class readings. All of them can. You do not have an outside source requirement for this essay. You did for essay 2, but not for this one. And the other big thing for you to consider is that this essay needs to bring you up to and over, ideally, that 5,000 word count for this semester. So what you need to do is kind of look at where you were with essay 1. If you revised essay 1 and that revision was longer, then that's the word count that I take. Look at essay 2, add those together, subtract them from 5,000. That's your minimum word count now for essay number 3. Some of you have very short essay 1 and essay 2, and if that's the case, then essay 3 needs to be very long. You have to hit that 5,000 word count if you want a chance at passing English 221 this semester. If you had really long essays 1 and or essay number 2, and essay 3 needs to be short, that's great. Then you can write a short essay. Keep in mind that you still want it to pass, though, right? You really should be aiming for a passing essay. So keep in mind your word count. I do have a rough draft due sometime during the week of May 2nd, and that's not something that I'm going to be giving you feedback on necessarily. It's more of a way to kind of for you to keep yourself accountable for getting a rough draft done. But what I would encourage you to do, get a rough draft done and then meet with me this week, and we can go over it in a conference. I think that's probably one of the better ways to go about doing that. All right. Your due date, though, Thursday, May 12th, with a 2-day grace period ending Saturday, May 14th. That kind of keeps you out of writing the essay during finals and allows me time to read the essays and give them back to you before you do your final grade proposal in the class. All right. This other consideration is the last thing I want to say about essay 3. This essay seems deceptively easy, and students have said that over the semesters that I've taught this particular essay. But then when you start thinking about what this topic is asking of you, right, in terms of just thinking about democracy in maybe a way you haven't thought about it before, they realize that it's harder than you think. This essay is probably going to be the more challenging essay of this semester, only because it's asking you really, what do you think about democracy? What about when you read some of these readings or participate in the interactive activities there, what does it make you think about your role in democracy? So meet with me again, conference with me early and often. Okay. Moving on from there, you have your readings for the week. The first one from Scotty Hendricks, Why is the U.S. So Divided? It was never united at all. This one's, I think, super interesting. Then you have a couple of, you've got others. Bipolar Disorder, Is America Divided? By Joe Pierre, Why Has America Become So Divided? I'm just going to kind of scroll through these. This Hidden Tribes is another, you'll have a couple of interactives. This is one, there's another one next week from the same sponsoring organization that I thought was really interesting when it comes to thinking about how people align themselves politically and kind of what that means for us as a country. Anyway, so I would encourage you to just kind of play around with that one. And then the last one is a longer essay, but one that I thought was very interesting by Chris Calloway, about civic duties and civic virtues. And even though it doesn't necessarily talk about democracy on the face of it, it really does talk about, what is our responsibility as a citizen in a democracy? And that is definitely one approach that you can take when it comes to writing essay number 3. All right, so again, your discussion board here, the goal is to read one or more of these readings and then to just talk about it. What do you think of it? I want you to practice using evidence, so you do need to have at least one piece of evidence and try to work on embedding it. Again, that's a skill that you're practicing here. These posts are longer because you really only have this plus your essay progress post due in the course of a week. So this post needs to have more of your attention and time with it. You are responding to each other, and again, consider all of this your pre-writing. And then the reminder will pop up on your calendar for the peer reply. Your essay progress post is due later in the week. And again, this is just an opportunity to start documenting and reflecting on your essay number 3 progress. Even if you're just logging on to say, I have not started, I don't know where I'm going to start, I don't know what I'm going to do, great, post that. Just legitimately own up to wherever you are in your progress here. Excuse me. If you have questions, this is also an opportunity for me to respond to your questions. So if you've got questions about the essay or about the reading or approaches, you can ask them here. And then other people can also respond as well. Your writing territory grammar skill this week is dependent clauses. And then that, of course, is due Friday with a grace period of Saturday midday. There's one extra credit opportunity this week, and that's a TED Talk called The Radical Act of Choosing Common Ground, which I thought was really interesting and might be something that you could consider for your essay if you are kind of talking about that kind of coming together. And again, that's optional. And then that's it. That brings us to the end of our week. So again, the next few weeks in this class are just going to zip by. So meet with me. Don't struggle in silence. Let me know how I can help support you. And hopefully I will see you in a conference or online.